Here in Wisconsin, we are literally buried by snow, but I wanted to go back and talk about this deck transformation from this fall. I prioritized this project before the winter because it was extremely slippery on this deck. As you can see, it is quite old and the wood had gotten so slippery anytime it rained, it was literally like a splash pad. So once we moved into the house, we completely cleared the deck and cleaned all of the weeds around it so we could see what we were working with. Another weird thing is that the past people who built this deck ended up building it over our basement door. So in this video, you will see that I didn't paint the whole deck, and it is because we are planning on cutting it off. So first, I power washed the whole part of the deck that we are keeping, and that really helped with the slipperiness, but I'm going to take it a few steps further to help preserve the wood. First, I sanded all the surfaces to make them smooth, and don't look too closely at my technique because this is my first time sanding, but it did really help with splinters. Second, all of the big gaps I filled in with wood filler because there were so many and I wanted to make a smooth surface for the paint. Once I finished the wood filler, that had to dry for a few days, and as you can see, I used quite a bit of it, like a few tubs of this stuff, to fill in all of the gaps. Next, I taped the siding to prevent it from getting any paint on it, and then I was finally ready to paint the deck. I didn't really choose the paint that we were painting the deck with because my husband had 3 gallons of it from a previous job. He's a handyman and he didn't end up using them for that other job. So I was using what we had and it ended up being free. But this deck did end up taking 6 gallons of paint because it really soaks into the cracks. So this job did not cost me nothing, but it was a lot cheaper because we used what we had, and I don't mind the color of this paint for this project. I used a Behr Deck paint that is specifically supposed to soak into the cracks in order to give a smoother surface, and it did do a really good job of doing that. It is very thick, like a pudding consistency, and I ended up having to fill in all of it with a brush. A roller did not work for this paint, so it was very time consuming, but it did make the surface very nice and smooth. This is basically the halfway point of the painting, and this area was 3 gallons of that paint. This is the completed project. Once the paint was dried, the last thing we have to do is cut off the deck and install a new railing on the other end. Whoever built this deck also did not follow code, so my toddler can literally walk off the edge. So a friend helped me install lattice on the top and bottom to prevent animals and my toddler from walking off. We ended up being a panel short, so we need to complete this project, but overall it looks pretty good so far.